Hey, what's up everybody, Nexel here. Today we are playing Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, and we have a high score medal deal coming at us today. So there's a lot I want to talk about with this banner, and then at the very end of it, I'll talk about whether or not I think it's a good idea to pull from it. So let's go ahead, jump right into the details. So the first thing to note is that just looking at the banner itself, you're only going to get 5 options for what the high score medal you can get from this is. So we have Sora and Simba, Boss Xemnas, Zack B, Illustrated Timeless River Sora, and VVB. So moving on through the notice, one of the first things to note is that you will be getting one of the 6-star medals per draw from this deal. So again, 6-star, not 7-star, meaning at the very least we're looking at needing tier 8 blue fairies to bring this up from a 6-star to a 7-star, and the 7-star is where all the damage is going to be dealt. It's the only way to really use these in PvP to your advantage, in my opinion, for competitive PvP. So again, it comes 6-star, so you're going to need 5 tier 8 blue fairies to bring this up to standards. So we're going to get 3 days to decide, and then this 5 medal deal guarantees one of those 6-star high score challenge medals, and then the remaining 4 medals will be of 5-star or higher rarity. But because it's not a guarantee, we're not really going to go into that. There's just a little bit of notes here and there that I'd want to say in regards to those additional 4 medals. And you're going to get a bonus magic mirror, but just one magic mirror, which is kind of lame. But I mean, it is what it is. You're getting an additional bonus magic mirror, whereas back in the day you wouldn't get anything else. So it's a magic mirror is a magic mirror. Alright, so just going through that, because the rest of this notice is actually just the medals themselves, and then their effects, damage, gauges, things like that. So one thing I want to note is that I haven't tested this for myself, but I've been hearing that the medals come with no traits, no orbs. They come with nothing. They are as vanilla as the medal can possibly be, just giving you a 6-star version with nothing else on it. So that is a big thing to pay attention to, because what that means is that you have to have the resources to make this medal great before you pull for it. So what does that entail? You know, you need blue fairies, and not just any blue fairies, but these are all tier 8. So tier 8 blue fairies. You're also going to need a skill, because if we go down here and check out the gauge cost, all of these are really high gauges with no restoration going on. So if you just put an attack boost 8 max on any of these, you're losing those gauges with no means of recovering them, unless you've got something coming up down the line like a supernova medal or something that'll restore those gauges back for you. So you're going to need an SP skill. So those are already 2 really hard to find things nowadays. What else are you going to need? You're going to need Fantasia Mickey B's and Magic Brooms in order to bring up the Guilt, and then in order to max it out. So that's just more resources you need. I argued this last one doesn't really need a lot of extra work, but again, it is still Magic Mirrors. It is still Fantasia Mickey B's. It's resources you're using in order to make the medal pretty much up to standards. And then again, I said it a little bit earlier, these come without traits, and traits are what's breaking the game right now. So without good traits, the medal does fall short of its maximum potential. So without pretty much ground or extra attack or strength plus 1,000, these medals are falling a little bit shorter than what their full potential is. So that's a big thing to note, because that means you'll need to pull multiple times in order to get the traits you need, or at the very least you need to own the medal already, and then you just keep trading that one with each pull that you do from this banner. So that's just a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of additional resources that you need to have prepared before you can even make good use of these medals, because their 6-star version, without any sort of guilt, without any sort of skill, is pretty much useless, honestly. Like, it's just collector's value at that point if you don't have the resources needed to bring out the full potential. So just keep that in mind. You're going to need a lot of stuff in order to make any one of these medals work. But granted, if you do have those resources, these medals are still monsters in PvP. I still see them all the time. I see that Sora and Simba come after me. I see the Zack B still going after my HP. I see the Boss Xemnas still coming. There's a lot of good damage if you can bring these things out to their full potential, and you still use them in competitive PvP today. Not only that, but if you get good traits on them, or if you're able to, again, just bring out that full potential, you can use them on very difficult missions where you have to fight a single enemy, because even though these medals As you can see here, the targets are either random or single. That is a lot of damage you're dealing to one enemy. So this includes events like the Big Boss Challenge, where you didn't have to fight multiple enemies. You had to concentrate all that damage onto one enemy, and these medals, once you bring out their full potential, are able to do a lot of damage, and that just can make clearing the event a lot easier. But again, you do need all those resources first before these medals will actually really work for you. The only thing I would say these medals are falling to in terms of damage are supernova medals, because with the way supernova medals work in this game, it's pretty much like 3 attacks. You're getting the base attack, you're getting the extra attack, and then you're getting the supernova strike, and that's 3 attacks, 3 super powered attacks, and that's pretty much the only thing right now, in my opinion, that's overtaking these tier 8 random and single target medals that do just extreme amounts of damage. What else do I want to say about this? So, looking at the first 3, Boss, Xemnas, Zack, B, and Sora and Simba, these are just straight damage medals. Their entire purpose is just to pummel the enemy down into the dust, and it shows. It shows in the multiplier, it shows in the gauge cost. They're all tier 8s. So that's really good that these, again, medals are just used to pummel the enemy down, and that's exactly what they do. They do nothing more. Once you get them, I believe, to 7-star, they do the whole either reverse strength +3 or upright strength +3. But that's sort of irrelevant in comparison to the buffers that you'll probably have on before you even get to this medal. The next 2 are kind of tricky because they're single target, meaning you can pick the enemy you use them on. They have damage plus, but they're single target, which is really bad in my opinion, because it means the less enemies there are, the more damage that the medal is doing, but the medal does not hit all the enemies, meaning that if you have a fight that you have 2 Heartless that you need to take out, as long as there's 2 there, you're getting the low end of this multiplier, and that's a lot lower than what you could be using. So in this example, these are 6 stars, but comparing a 27.13 damage multiplier in comparison to a 15.58 is a huge gap, all because there's an additional enemy that you need to take out first before using this medal, again, preventing it from being used to its full potential. It does have that next medal turns into the attribute of that medal. So for Illustrated Timeless River Sora, it turns the next medal into speed, and then for VVB, it turns the next medal into magic. Personally, I haven't been using this as much. I can see how it would be useful in things like Union Cross, in PvE, in PvP, if you don't do, just full generic buffers on everything, like if you're missing the Kyrie, if you're still relying on stained glass. So I can see how it could be useful in that kind of scenario, because you're forcing the next medal to be a specific color, but I haven't really used that mechanic as much. Personally, I haven't found it too particularly useful, but maybe it's because I haven't been playing around with it as much as I should have. So that's just something that I find particularly interesting, but again, less useful, because again, as long as there are 2 enemies on that stage, you're getting the low end of this medal's multiplier, and that is not what you want in a medal that you want to do a lot of damage. So let's go ahead and hop into the draw odds here. So the general stuff is super general. You had a 10% chance of getting a 7-star, but none of those 7 stars are particularly special, minus the prime medals. You have a 10% chance of getting a 6-star. Again, very few things that'll be good for you coming out of that, with, for the most part, buffer medals and copy medals being the most useful thing you could get out of those 6 stars. The rest are 5 stars, but 5 stars at this point are more or less obsolete unless they have some sort of event where you're forced to use 5 stars. So let's go ahead and hop to the guarantee, which is the most important part about any banner. So looking at this guarantee, it's a very even split between all the medals, meaning that if you're looking to pick up one specific medal, you have a 20% shot of getting the exact one you want. So let's say I want Sora and Simba, there's a 20% I'm going to get that, and then there's an 80% chance that I'm going to get something else that I wasn't even looking for. So really keep that in mind, that if you're trying to focus yourself on getting one specific medal, your odds are only 20%. A good thing is that there is a pretty high chance of it coming boosted, but does that outweigh the fact that you might not get what you're looking for? It's hard to say in my opinion, to be honest. But that's pretty much it in terms of the draw odds. Everything else is right here, but again, it's not as useful as the actual the actual guaranteed part where it says you're getting the high score medal deal. You're getting one of those high score medals. So that's just my opinion about the draw odds. Very, very vanilla stuff. And a very even split across everything, even though I'd argue some of them are better than others, but that's just my personal opinion. So what are my thoughts on this banner? I think that they wouldn't, and they've done this in the past, they wouldn't release this kind of banner unless something else was coming up. So what do I think is coming up? First of all, Kingdom Hearts 3 banners and avatar boards and specials are coming out, and that can be any plethora of things. It could be a lot of different stuff. It could be pull ones for a supernova medal. It could be new medals. It could be like an Ephemer Skald and Charithi medal. It could be new foreteller medals. It could be new Kingdom Hearts 3 medals, so like Kingdom Hearts 3 Sora, Riku, and Kairi, or Kingdom Hearts 3 Terra Aqua Ventus, or Kingdom Hearts 3 Axel, Roxas, Xion. Like, there's a lot of different options that could be coming up with the release of Kingdom Hearts 3, especially since that game has been in the works for a lot of people since pretty much 2005, and that is a big hype to build up for, and that is, I feel like the game is going to do it justice, hopefully. We're not really sure how it's going to pan out. We're not sure if we're getting any jewels or any events, but I mean, I feel like something really, really big is coming up, and it's only 10 days away. So just keep that in mind, that if you spend on this, you're losing jewels that could go into a Kingdom Hearts 3 event. And not only that, but if you're looking at it in terms of money, you're spending $15 now when you could be spending $15 later, and $15 a pull is pretty expensive in my opinion, regardless of how you obtain the jewels. What else? These medals are still amongst the strongest multipliers in the game and still have been dominating in PvP. I'm sure, especially with Lady Luck being the PvP Keyblade for now, a lot of people have been seeing Sora and Simba come after them really, really badly. So just keep in mind that these things still do a lot of damage, but again, like I said earlier on in the video, you need a lot of additional resources in order to bring out any sort of potential in these medals. So what's my recommendation? I personally wouldn't pull. At the very least, at the very minimum, if you don't have those spare resources that I was talking about earlier. So we're talking about Blue Fairies tier 8, we're talking about an SP attack gauge skill, we are talking about magic mirrors, we're talking Fantasia Mickey B's. If you don't have those additional resources to make these medals great, I would definitely skip on it unless you're doing it for collector's purposes, because these medals, again, their main focus is to do damage, and if you can't squeeze out the maximum amount of damage, you're missing a lot of the point of having these medals on hand and on your Keyblades as well. It's a super risky gamble to pull from this, especially, again, if you're looking for something specific. It's only a 20% chance. If you already have the medals, it can definitely benefit you pulling from this banner, because what that means is that you're now pulling for traits, you're pulling to get closer to guilt, but keep in mind that what you're really paying for is a shot at a good trait. So this 1500 jewels does not guarantee you an extra attack. It does not guarantee you a ground enemy defense minus 60. It doesn't guarantee you a strength plus 1000. It doesn't guarantee you a boosted version. So just keep that in mind, that pulling for traits is a very, very risky gamble, especially because for the most part, you're looking for a specific trait on a medal, if not at most 4 specific traits. So for these guys, we are looking for either extra attack, ground or aerial, strength, and potentially damage and rage if that's just your cup of tea. But yeah, you're gambling on traits, and that's always not a good idea. With very few exceptions to the rule, like the copycat banner, I'd argue to an extent it is worth kind of gambling for traits, because any of those copycat medals with a good trait can save you really, really badly. But for these high score medals, I don't know, I don't really think it's worth the gamble in my personal opinion. So before you pull, like, really consider your personal standpoint on PvP. So are you a super whale and you're trying to prepare yourself for when they have like 5 Keyblade PvP weeks? Or are you just new and you're lacking in tier 8 Blue Fairies? You need something to just kind of jumpstart your game. This could potentially help, again, if you have those additional resources that I mentioned earlier on in the video. So just keep in mind, these medals are really mainly for PvP in my opinion. You're using them to dominate over your enemy because your enemy is just one enemy. So all the random attacks, they're just going to hit that one enemy. The single target attacks, that one enemy. So these are really PvP medals in my personal opinion. And if you're okay with how you stand in PvP, you can honestly skip this. Like, there's no real reason to pull for it, in my personal opinion. Just because with Supernova medals coming out, there's just more utility in that. Those Supernova medals act as both buffers and debuffers. They have the Supernova attack, and then usually the banner that you pull them from has like trait medals built into there. So you're getting trait medals by pulling from the banner itself in order to get the Supernova medal. So just keep all that in mind. That's my thoughts on this high score medal deal. So overall, no, I don't think it's worth it unless you just got some extra bread here and there and you just want to spend money on a banner. But if you're just going to be that impulsive, I probably would recommend the imitation medal deal over the high score challenge deal. So with that being said, if there are any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to drop them down in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer when I have the time. But as always, everyone, until next time, take it easy.